2025 has been a big year for new releases in the ham HT world. In this video, we'll be looking at the GS-10B from Radioddity. The GS-10B is available both from Radioddity directly and from Amazon. I'll have affiliate links in the description below for those who might be interested. Radioddity occasionally provides radios for review, but in this case, I got this from Amazon using channeled funds. Your using affiliate links helps with these purchases, and I thank you. Let's look at a couple of the GS-10B's features I found particularly noteworthy. First, it's advertised as a 10-watt radio. As we'll see in a minute, the radio's output is more than 5 watts, but less than 10. Second, the radio can use the walkie-talkie tool app for Bluetooth programming from your smartphone. The walkie-talkie tool app works with several Chinese budget-class radios, so you may have it installed already. The sales page on Amazon says it will also work with the OLA radio app. I could get it to connect to the app, however the app didn't recognize the model, so it appears the OLA radio app has a bit of work to do yet. Of course, there's a dedicated factory CPS too. I haven't noticed it show up in the chirp-supported radios yet, though. We'll look at the CPS later. The GS-10B also comes with a fairly large 2500 milliamp hour battery with a USB-C charging port. In terms of band coverage, it has a large receive-only band, and for us hams, it can transmit in the 2 meter, 1.25 meter, and 70 centimeter bands. On the receive side, the specs claim coverage of the broadcast FM band, the AM air band, 18 to 500 megahertz, as well as the NOAA weather channels. The last feature I'll mention here is noise reduction. I haven't been able to get a good sense of this, but it appears that it's the same technology used in smartphones. This technology emphasizes your voice while digitally filtering out background noise such as wind or crowd or machinery noise. Hey, if you haven't subscribed to the Gadget Talk channel yet, I hope you will. Be sure to click the bell icon so you'll know when we release new content. And please click the thumbs up button if you find this video helpful. Comments are always welcome. Let's take a look at what you'll get with your GS-10B. So here's the box that the GS-10B comes in. I've been noticing a trend in some of these radios I've gotten recently where the boxes are getting smaller as opposed to being flat and laid out in one level. The radio is in a little tray, and then the stuff we're about to look at is packed inside the sides of that little tray, and it gets down into a pretty compact size. And so this is the box. Let's take a look at the owner's manual. So here's the owner's manual for the GS-10B. One of the things I like about Radioddity's owner's manuals is that they tend to use larger print. And so when you've got older eyes and glasses like I have, having a larger print sure makes a difference. And it's got a basic operations are described in here. They've got drawings of the various things. All of the menu items are listed here along with the various choices for those menus and so forth. Now I've got a couple of little things stuck here, so something was blacked out here. And so that means that they've made some changes since they got ready, and they've fixed the owner's manual. So that's kind of cool. And then this got just the usual stuff, and then they've renumbered the menu items here since they printed this. So I would expect if you're getting one of these a little bit later than when I'm recording this stuff will be fixed in the next round of printing. But it's good that they're paying attention so it doesn't add confusion when you get a new radio. Now to charge the radio, there's a USB-C cable. It's got USB-C on one side to USB-A on the other. It comes with a wall wart that you can use. This one has US plugs on it, and this will plug into the back of the battery of the radio. So that's charging right there. It comes with a belt clip. This one snaps into the back of the radio. I'm deciding that I kind of like that because I always have such a problem trying to get those little less than 1 millimeter screws into those little holes. And so having a snap-on belt clip I like. And then I didn't notice that a lanyard came with this particular radio. I may have misplaced it, but in any case, if you have it, you know what it is. And then the last accessory that it came with is this over-the-ear earphone plus a push-to-talk that go into the K1 connector on the side of the radio. These are common in a lot of radios, and so you probably have a box full of these already. The last thing we'll look at is the antenna. The antenna's got a little bit of flexibility. It's got a knurled end, which is kind of nice, so it's nice and strong down there. And then it's got the frequency coverage printed in small letters, and then you'll notice it's the socket or female side on the bottom of the antenna to plug into the radio. So here's our power off tour of the radio. You can see this radio is kind of chunky, and some of that, of course, is it's got a nice sized battery on the back. But it's good, it feels strong, it's heavy, and so it's quite a different radio than some of the miniature radios that we see that are very popular in the market right now. We've got a screen protector on, so let's pull that off. There we go, screen protector's gone. So we've got a screen. I think it's the typical, 1.77, 1.8 inch diagonal screen. Across the middle, it's got the VFO and memory button, a scan button, and then an AB button over here. And so those are pretty common. And this leads me to believe that this may have come out of a factory that some Baofeng radios come out of, but it's branded for Radioddity, and I haven't seen one like this with a different branding on it, so it's hard to say. But in any case, this middle row is VFO, memory, scan, and AB. And then below that, we've got the menu and the back button, and then we've got rocker switch there for the up and down. Through the middle, we've got all the numbers, and these numbers are also printed with letters, which lead me to believe that you'll be able to program text into, like, for example, naming a channel in the menu system. On the other side, we move here. We've got two push-to-talks. We've got push-to-talk A, push-to-talk B, and side key number 1. Then on the bottom, we've got the tracks for that belt clip to snap into. It's got some tabs on the bottom for charging, although it did not come with a charging cradle. Here is the USB-C charge port and the indicator, red for charging, green for charged, and then the battery release is right here. And then over here, the little rubber grommet door fits by opening sideways instead of folding down, and you can see you've got the K1 connector there for that little earpiece that I showed you, or for a programming cable, should that be what you choose to program the radio with. Now, on the top, we've got the antenna connector there with the spike or the male side right here. We've got a ratcheted knob here that allows us to go up and down through some menu items, and then, of course, change channels. And then we've got the on, off, and volume here, along with the receive or transmit LED indicator. And then you'll notice there's no flashlight on this radio. So that's a quick power off tour of the GS-10B. Now, let's turn the radio on and do a quick power on tour. So let's turn the radio on and see what's happening here with these controls.
Channel mode.
You can hear the male voice. Tells us channel mode. So as we look at the display, the various icons are described in the owner's manual. You can see here it's set to dual watch. The Bluetooth is on. You can see that there's a little H right here for the high power. We can change the power level by pressing the lower push-to-talk button in a brief press. It's low, medium, high. That's always cool. I like having a side key of some type that allows me to change power settings. And then we see that the number is there, and then you can see the name underneath. It says unnamed because I haven't done any programming on this yet. It's channel 1. The volume indicator is there, and you can see what the volume is when you get something transmitting into the radio, and then a radio signal strength indicator over there. There's a red A that is highlighted there, meaning that that's the active band. If we press AB, it changes down here, and the B becomes red, and that shows it's now the active band. Now let's take a look at these buttons. We can change it to in and out of frequency mode. We can switch from A to B, and then we can set up a scan. And it scans pretty fast. And so we can go back here to our channel mode. It's on channel 18. If we want to change channels, we can use the buttons. Goes back to channel 1. And then, of course, we can just type in the frequency as well. So on the star key over here, there's the reverse frequency. If you're in a repeater, the R comes up, and then you press again. There's a little T there that for talk around. And then over here we have DTMF. We'll back out of that. And so let's take a look at the menus here real quick. We go in with the little house there, the home key. And this is the older style menu. So there's like 52 or so menus in this radio. And so you can set squelch, you press it again, and then the numbers start to flash, make your selection, and so forth. So we can go up. We're now on menu item 1, menu item 2, high power, super savior mode or normal mode. And then if we go down, we can go back to where we were. And then item number 49 gives us the modulation that we might be using for a particular channel. If we go into VFO here, you can see I've got the frequency for the tower of an airport near where I am. So that's that air band right there. So it's got 118.4, and you can see a little AM there. And the little box came up, it said AM receive or band A receive. So somebody was talking on the radio. I've got the volume dialed down so we're not interrupted here during the recording. Now, as we go over here, we've talked about some of these buttons already. So we've got push to talk here. This one is going to change power. And then this one on the bottom side, key 1, will start a scan search. And then a long press goes into monitor mode. And you can change the value for this. And so if you're using scan up here, you may want to put the FM radio mode over here or something like that. So that covers most of the buttons and controls on the side. On the top, again, you can change channels by using this rotary knob. And then the volume and on-off buttons here. And we've got the AM there. So it's pretty typical of most radios. It would be nice if it had the segmented menus that you're starting to see with some newer radios, but with 49 menu items and then most of the channel-related items being grouped together, programming a radio from the faceplate shouldn't be too difficult at all. Here's the power output test I mentioned at the top of the video. So let's check the power on this GS-10B. I've got it on the VHF call channel on high power. This is a 10-watt radio. It's going into my MFJ 874. We're reading it on the second arc from the bottom. That's the 20-watt setting. And, of course, it's going into a dummy load. So here is 2 meters. So it looks like it's about 6.4, 6.5 watts. Above that 5-watt range, but it's a little short of that 10 watts. Let's go up to the 70 centimeter range now. So here we are in the 70 centimeter range, 446000, and on high power again, second arc from the bottom. That one comes in at just over 5 watts, maybe 5.1. So all in all, that's a little bit short of the advertised 10 watts, but certainly above what you'd expect from a 5-watt radio in this budget class of radios.
One of the disappointing things about the GS-10B is signal purity in the 2-meter band. This is a pretty common problem among budget-priced ham HTs. I'm going to keep calling it out in hopes that manufacturers will fix this.
So here I've got my GS-10B hooked up to the Tiny SA Ultra. I've got this set to measure harmonics. We're going to use 146.52. I've got my 40 dB worth of attenuation here. I've got it next to the signal analyzer here because it doesn't fit with that extra knob up there on the top. And then that little horizontal blue line represents 25 microwatts, which is the minus 1602 decibels, and that is the limit for which any harmonics, if there are any,
should be below when the radio is keyed. So let's key up. We're going to let this go through a couple of times. It's scanning a really large area, so we'll hold it here for several seconds to allow it to stabilize and see what we get. So here we go at high power, 146.52. Okay, so we've got some spurs here. They're between 30 and 40 below, so that's technically a fail. And then they're also above that 25 microwatt limit. This is not unusual for 2-meter budget class radios, unfortunately. Let's finish up the demo part of this review with a look at both the smartphone app and the factory CPS. So here I've opened up the Walkie-Talkie Tool app. The QR code for this is in the instructions, and you can just search for it in Google Play. In this case, I want to do frequency, so I'm going to press frequency. I'm going to get a little tickler about logging in. I don't have an account here, but it'll still let me do this in terms of programming. So first I'm going to connect my Bluetooth. It's going to read this because remember I set this to Bluetooth, so it's going to go Walkie-Talkie Tool. Then I'm going to go into Select Model. This is a Radioddity 10B. I'm going to go here to Frequency Read, Write, and Set, the little gold icon. And I'm going to read from the radio. And since I haven't done any programming, it's going to read pretty quick. There's not a lot to change so far. And so in this case, now I've got the thing ready to go. And so if I go up here to channel 2, for example, you can see that it matches what's here on the screen. And so I can add my CTCSS codes or DCS codes and so forth, as well as giving it a name. And so I'll be doing that here a little bit later. If you're going to put in a bunch of stuff, I recommend using the CPS, but for minor changes, or if you're not adding many channels, this little guy on the app will work just fine. When you're done programming, you can save it, and then you can set a profile name so you can recall the programming in case you happen to miss something up. Up here is the optional, and the optional is all those radio settings, so backlight, beep, TTMF signaling, dual transmit, and all that other stuff that we saw in the menus. That's all here in the optional. And then the frequency mode, you can set it up where it's going to come up. So for example, band B is going to come up as a VHF at 145, 125. That's just how it came. But if we were to go to VFO mode, we would see that we would come up there. And then as we saw in the tour, when we went to VFO on the upper register, we saw that it came up as 118.4, which is the tower frequency. That's because that's the way it's set here. So that's just kind of the jumping off spot when you move into the VFO mode. The other thing you can do is you can import repeaters. I found that doesn't work very well because the distances don't break down. You know, I get stuff from 500 miles away, and so I'm sure it would work, but if it just isn't handy, so it needs a little work in terms of determining where the repeater is versus where you are. This is kind of the same thing that you might find in the OD Master app, although the OD Master app handles this particular task much better than this Walkie-Talkie Tool app does. Then we can set up a name, we can save it, and that allows us to restore the radio to this programming should we mess something out. And so that would live here on your phone, making it really easy to reprogram. The next thing we would do is we would write it back to the phone. We press write. The radio would go into programming mode, as you see here, and then all that information would write back to the phone. So that is programming via the Walkie-Talkie Tool app and the GS-10B. So here's the CPS for the GS-10B, and it looks like most other factory CPSs. And here is the channel information. I have programmed these in. It's a little tedious. You have to enter all this stuff in, but it's just a matter of clicking here, adding the frequency. When you click out, the rest of this line will appear. So we'll go 146.52. You see it fills in. You give it a name down here. And if it's a repeater, you set in the proper offset here. To get rid of it, just highlight this again, hit delete, click out, and it all disappears. So all this is pretty self-evident and familiar to you from other CPSs. Down here, I set in some UHF channels, and up here, I've got my VHF channels. The other thing we're going to look at in editing, we're going to go into optional features, and this opens up this box, and we can set our side keys. So I've got PF2, I decided to set for power, long press for radio or FM radio, and in PF3 I've set to turn on the weather channels. Here are other check boxes for the other choices you have, and then here I've got my channel displays. I've got channel name on A and channel and frequency on B when I'm in channel mode. And as you remember from earlier, that's really nice because it shows the name, but then also the frequency. And here it shows the frequency, but also the name. I'm going to have it come up in channel mode in both cases. You can choose to bring it up in VFO mode if you prefer. The VFO information is up here at this part of the display. And you can see there that the receive goes all the way down to 18 megahertz, which is down in the HF bands. So that's pretty cool. The other two columns here are the other things in the menu. So all of that is listed here. So that's how you would make your choices for the menu, for the VFO, and then for your side keys all in this optional feature. Then, of course, you would save it. I like to give mine a name with the year, the month, and the day, and the model. And then I've got it stored in my Microsoft OneDrive so I can get at it when I'm away from home. So that's the CPS in a snapshot. There is the ability to import a picture when it boots up. And then, of course, in settings, you still have to select the proper port for that. And you can get that from your device manager in Windows.
The Radioddity GS-10B HT is pretty typical for radios in this price range. The higher power output, smartphone programming, expanded receive range, and large battery set this little handset apart from other HTs in this category. Unfortunately, poor signal quality in the 2-meter band is also typical. There are a couple of manufacturers who produce clean radios, so I know it can be done. I hope the others will fix this. Given the choice of a clean signal and some new whiz-bang feature, I'll take the clean signal. Again, please like the video and subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel. Here are a couple of videos I think you'll find interesting. Thanks for watching. 73.